Hey guys, welcome to Homestead by Chance. I have been saving the old veggie bin apples, and I have quite an abundance, or I had. I've already processed most of them so you didn't have to sit there and watch the procedure for thousands of apples. But anyway, so I thought today I would start my applesauce and my scrap apple vinegar, and of course, treats for the chickens. So the chickens are going to get the cores, the skins are going to become the apple scrap vinegar, and of course, the applesauce. All right, so I used to core and peel my apples by hand. Then I got one of these wonderful apple peelers and corers. And mine has the added bonus of a spiralizer on the end. And so it spirals, so it takes core out, right? And then it spirals the apple as it cuts it as well. And that's really great because then I slice it and it fits in my crock pot a lot better. So I'm going to show you that. If you have an apple core peeler, that's great. If you're looking for one, make sure you get the one with the spiralizer on the end. So this is really great. So of course it peels and then it goes in and cores it. And then you can see it's spiraling the apple. And this is so great. Just saves a lot of time. Get out of there. Cores for the chicken, and then my apple spiral. So it's just so nice that then I can just cut it. I just cut it in half, and it really is a space saver in my crock pot instead of like big chunks. And then of course, the peels are going to go for my apple scrap vinegar. If you've never made apple scrap vinegar, which first of all, there's a difference between apple cider vinegar, right, which is what we buy at the store, and apple scrap vinegar. Apple cider vinegar is, what we can with, and we can do other things. We can clean with it and use it for medicinal purposes and things like that. The pH in apple scrap vinegar is not necessarily correct for canning, right? Because it's got to be 5% acidity. I don't know what apple scrap vinegar usually comes out as. If you want to see if your apple scrap vinegar is acidic enough, you can buy a titration kit then you can test it and you can see. But I'm making the apple scrap vinegar for a couple of different purposes. One, I make a homemade oil and vinegar dressing for my salads, which is really, really good, and I use the apple scrap vinegar. I use it for medicinal purposes, and then I also use it to make my orange cleaner that you can use around the house, or I like to use it in my laundry as an antibacterial spray and anti-static spray as well. So I've got different uses for my apple scrap vinegar. I'm not worried about making it to can with as an acidic item. So I don't have to worry about that too much. Now, the applesauce, I make a very basic applesauce. I do not put any sugar in it whatsoever. So here are my apples. Yes, this will cook down. It's massive right now, but it will cook down. So I'm going to put some water on top of this, and I might pour a little bit of orange juice in it, just for the heck of it. And then any kind of other fruit that you have, you can add to this. So I've done cranberry and strawberry and just anything that I have. And a lot of times people ask me, what kind of apples do you use for your applesauce? Well, you want your applesauce to have some natural sweetness to it, which this does. I find it's best just to use whatever mix of apples there happens to be. So if I'm getting them from the old veggie bin, I have no idea what's in there, right? I did look at some of the labels. There were Fuji and Gala, Envy, I think Envoy. I don't know. I can't remember now. All different kinds of apples. There even happened to be one green apple in the whole thing. And whatever's there, that's what goes into my crock pot to make applesauce. And today I'm going to put some orange juice in it, like I said, but I have some elderberry syrup left over from a homeschool class. And this is the elderberry syrup that has sugar in it to sweeten your drink. rather than the elderberry medicinal specific syrup. There's not that much sugar in the elderberry syrup, so it's not going to cause this to become like, oh my gosh, it's like sugar added sweet applesauce, because this is a lot of apples, and I'm just going to pour a little bit of that elderberry syrup on top. So, stickiness off my hands. I'll go over here. Oh, and here's my elderberry syrup. All right, I made this a while ago. I love this bottle. It does not pour well. It makes a mess. But that's okay because it's really pretty. It might be a little bit fermented because it's been in there a while. Nope, nope, it's perfect. Okay, so I'm just going to put a little bit of this in here. And the cool thing about doing something like this is that whether I put sugar in it or I cook it or whatever it is, I'm not affecting the medicinal value of the elderberry at all. So every time we eat this applesauce, we're going to be getting a little bit of that elderberry syrup for the medicinal value as well. That's not the intention, but I really love the idea of putting medicinal foodstuffs, especially those wild edibles, right? I love the idea of putting those in our everyday foods. So like I cook with lots of turmeric. That's a big one that I cook with. We put elderberry in drinks and things like that, just like it's a flavoring, right? So it's really cool that you can, if I'm careful, hopefully it won't make too big of a mess. And I'm just going to I might pour half of this in here. And you do want to make sure that you put some water in here as well. And like I said, orange juice. No, I didn't have everything out. I don't have room. So orange juice as well. New carton. All right. So I'm going to pour a little bit of orange juice in here. And I will top it off with some water because as this cooks down, yes, the apples will de-water some, but a lot of the water is going to evaporate as well. So I want to make sure, just get a cup. I want to make sure that there is some intentional water in there as well. And if you go to like stir it up and stuff and there's too much water, well, you just leave the lid off and let it cook a bit more. And that water will continue to evaporate off. All right, so lid back on that. So apple scrap vinegar. Super, super easy to make. The main difference between apple scrap and apple cider vinegar is that in apple cider vinegar, you're actually squeezing the apples, right? You're making apple juice. And then from the juice, you make apple cider. And then you let that ferment and turn into a vinegar. I'm skipping the juicing part. And this is water that's in here. And I'm going to put a little bit of sugar. You can also use honey. Honey takes a little bit longer. And you can also get apple cider vinegar with the mother, right? And you can put like, I don't know, a couple of tablespoons or whatever in there to kind of help get that mother going. This is the same jar I used the last time, so the mother was still in the bottom, so I'm not going to worry about that. So I'm going to make sure that this is topped with water. I'll put a little bit of sugar in it, and then I'm going to fill a Ziploc bag with water and make sure that these are weighted down, okay? Because I don't want air to get to the fruit. And remember, you can make vinegars out of any kind of fruit that there is, okay? I made a strawberry pineapple vinegar once, okay? So you can make vinegars out of any kind of fruit. Apple just seems to be the common one, especially when you're peeling and coring 3 million apples and you have all these scraps left over. What do you do with them? If you have chickens, like I'm going to give all the cores to the chickens. They'll be nice and happy today. But the skins I can use to make apple scrap vinegar, which then I can use to make food products and cleaning products as well. So, so this is not quite this is a half cup scoop. I didn't fill it all the way. So I'm just going to put that in there. I'm not even going to worry about how accurate it is. That sugar, oh gosh, is just to attract the wild yeasts that you need in order to help bacteria grow. Excuse me. So I'll go ahead and get a quart Ziploc bag, and I'll fill it about halfway up with water. Push the air out. Gonna top off my jar. And usually I use dechlorinated water. I let it sit. I have dechlorinated water that I let sit on the counter. I didn't quite have enough. It'll be okay. So I'm gonna finish this with water. Oh, yep. Push that down. There we go. Put my Ziploc bag full of water in there. And then I always put this jar in a bowl because this, I don't know if you can see it spilling over, is going to make a mess. Okay, and that's just pretty much what they do. And I just want to make sure that all of my apple peels are completely covered in water. Okay, I'm going to have to let some water out of that Ziploc bag, but that's okay. So it's making a bit of a mess. So I'm going to let this sit for at least 2 weeks. And usually the way I do things is I forget about them. So even though it only has to sit for 2 weeks, I guarantee you it's probably going to be there for at least 6. Because I tend to get really busy with things and I say, I'll deal with it later. I'll deal with it later. I'll deal with it later. And then instead of 2 weeks, it's 6 weeks or 8 weeks or whatever. It's not going to hurt it to sit there, you know, as long as you pay attention and make sure that all of the peels are under the liquid. So, you know, you just want to take a look at it every once in a while. Some recipes will say that you want to stir it twice a day and things like that. I just let it sit and do its thing. So it works out really well. So anyway, I've got the applesauce, or the apples, all cored and sliced, orange juice, elderberry syrup, and some extra water. That's going to make my applesauce. I've got my apple scrap vinegar ready to go. And now I'm going to go give my chickens a treat. I bet there's an egg waiting for me. This is week 2. We started getting eggs, 1 egg a day, a week ago Sunday. And today's Wednesday. And we've gotten an egg every day. So I think that's pretty cool. So the chickens are doing their chickeny thing. And now they're going to get some sweet treats. All right. So if you have any questions about how to make applesauce or apple scrap vinegar, put in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe to get more videos from Homestead by Chance. See you next time.